It's important to us to acknowledge that this podcast is recorded on stolen land. I am based amongst the powerful sandstone ridges, valleys and waterfalls of Durrig and Gundungurra land. And Holly lives amongst the rugged plains, hills and timbered mountains of Ngunnawal and Ngambri land.
We need to give you a content warning for this episode, although you may have received a hint from the title. This episode contains information about stalkers, being stalked, harassed. If that kind of stuff is particularly triggering to you, or if you just want to tap out, here is your chance. The stories that we're talking about today are our experiences. They are real experiences, but we will have omitted some of the darker details and some of the specifics today for a number of reasons. There are a lot of people in this industry who have experienced stalking and violence to a higher degree than what we describe in this episode, including us in a way. But there are also many who never will experience it. This is not any sort of statement on, the prevalence or the severity or anything like that. This is just us discussing our experiences. We also need to warn you that we will be mentioning sexual assault as part of this episode as well. So that's another thing to make a decision on whether you are ready to hear that right now.
Welcome to Somebody You Love, or The Sale of Two Titties. I'm Jenna Love.
And I'm Holly Hart.
And we're experts in disappointing our parents, breaching community guidelines, and banging the people who vote against our rights. So, welcome back. In the first part of this episode, we each told a story about an experience of being stalked. In this episode, we're each going to share another story. How delightful. And then we're going to have a bit of a chat about the whole topic. So, off you go, Holly. Give us your next one.
Thank you, Jenna. God, it's such a light introduction to the episode, and then we just delve into this steer off the edge of the cliff into a really dark situation.
Yeah, twists and turns. Keep it coming.
Twists and turns. My story starts actually, I'm going to say 2014, 2015-ish. I had done sex work in various formats by that point, but at this era of my sex work journey, I was a receptionist in a brothel. One night we had this young man come in and cause trouble. I don't remember the circumstances because working in a brothel, we had a lot of young men come in. I mean, I worked at this brothel from 5 p.m. till 5 a.m. 4 days a week, and we had a lot of young men come in very intoxicated and cause all sorts of issues. And I was a tough little bitch, and I didn't put up. I was, running the show and being security and doing it all, so I had to be ready for it all. So I'm sure a lot of people came in that just did not like their interactions with me, but it was sort of my role to protect the workers as much as I could, and the premises and the entire scenario, which in hindsight and knowing the industry is crazy to have lone women in that situation. Anyway, so I do not remember the scenario where this guy came in and we had an issue, but I know it happened. Fast forward to a couple of years later, I'm working in another brothel. This time I'm back on the other side of the counter. I'm a sex worker, and a guy comes in and he has an intro with me, and he seemed fine, whatever, and he booked me and we went into the room. Somewhere along the way in our booking, he was a little bit arrogant, young guy, nothing particularly remarkable about him. But just a bit arrogant and a little bit just smart ass, a bit rude. And he said something to me like, "That's right, you're the badass receptionist. You're the receptionist from the other place." And he's sort of, I thought, I don't know. I couldn't quite place what he was talking about or him or anything like that. But it occurred to me that he knew who I was and knew me from the other brothel. Anyway, I wasn't particularly perturbed by him pointing out that he knew who I was. We carried on with the booking. And then he started trying to, what's the politically correct? What's the appropriate term for? Who cares? He started trying to rub his genitals against mine without protection. That's probably the best way to put it.
What were you going to say?
Frottage,
oh, yeah.
cheese.
Yeah.
Anyway, but no, but that's like
Is that
normal.
not politically correct?
No, I was going to say rubbing his dick on my pussy with that, but I thought I wanted to use something a little more refined.
Oh, I see.
But
I
also
see.
not so niche that people would go,
I
what's frottage?
see.
Yeah, so I was trying to.
Right.
Do you think I was going to
All
say
right.
like a racist term for
That's
rubbing,
what I
like an
thought.
ableist term?
Well, I was worried it was something I've been saying that has
Yeah.
been cancelled. I was like, oh shit, what is it?
No, not in this
Okay.
scenario.
Yes.
So he started trying to do that, and I corrected him, and I said, no, you've got to, And then he started doing it again, and I had to keep saying no, and then he said something like, "Oh, you're being such a bitch. You're making it hard for me to stay hard." And I was like, "Well, no, that I've made it clear what you're allowed to do, what you're not allowed to do." And yeah, I don't know. Look, he just continued to increase his aggression.
You know how I feel about the B word.
Yes. So I decided that was enough for me, and I left the room. I left him, he packed up his stuff, and he left without a further word to anyone. Sorry, there's so many ums in this story, and I just apologize because I know that can be really annoying to listen to for some people, but I really am throwing my mind right back to the start here, and particularly of stuff that I've tried not to think about for a long time. So I apologize if this is a little bit unpolished. I'm sure Mr. Love will do a wonderful job, but yeah.
But also,
it's a
because
delicate
both
topic.
of us were socialized as women, we grew up as girls, we were taught to put in filler words all the time, to constantly show our deference and be apologizing for everything we say. And thus, we will not be apologizing for the way that we speak. Except Holly just did.
It's very fair. Yeah. So he left, and I went back to the girls' room, and I had a big whinge about him. And it became apparent that other people there had issues with him in the past and had also decided not to see him. Nothing of huge note, but enough that I think most of the women there didn't want to see him, and only one worker was happy to continue. So I had made it clear to him that I did not have a good time with him and that I was not willing to see him. That was pretty clear, I'd say, from my leaving the booking before it had ended and my continual refusal to do whatever it was that he was trying to do with me. Now we jump forward a few more months, the brothel has shut down, and I have ventured out into the world as a private worker. I did not have connections to community, as a lot of new private workers don't. I just booked a hotel room, put my ads up, and started seeing people. I was not aware that you could even enforce any sort of screening procedures. It didn't occur to me. I just thought this was how it was done. And I think we've talked a little bit before about how brothels in some ways perpetuate this idea is that this is just how it's done. It's dangerous out there, in order to keep you in the brothels. So that could have been part of my journey. So it was pretty early into my private working career. I was only a few weeks in when I was booked by somebody who I didn't screen, who turned up and turned out to be him. And I don't know how much detail to go into here. I think I will mention he was wearing a mask, so I was not able to tell. And when I say a mask, I don't mean a face mask for COVID. I mean a full mask.
Like a realistic mask.
A human, you couldn't tell it. You could not, it looked like a normal person, but underneath was a different person. It's horrifying. I will not go into any further details, but I did not realise until it was too late, I guess is my point. And that was really, really disturbing. I did not confront him because I was terrified, I think is the most important, or I didn't challenge the situation because I was deeply frightened. And I look, for a lot of reasons, I didn't pursue recourse at the time because I was concerned that the hotel that I had found safety in would become involved and I would not be able to use that place to work from again. I was worried that my name or something would be published in the media along with my job, that I just didn't know, and I didn't want to be outed, and I didn't want to go through a criminal process and all of that sort of stuff. So I just didn't do anything about it. I did reach out to some friends who did connect me with community, which was really important for me to understand a little bit more about the industry and about, my rights and what I could do to protect myself more in future. And I genuinely considered from that incident leaving the industry. I thought this is not for me. I had really deliberated that next few days.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I don't blame you. I mean, I left the industry when I did because I was assaulted, and that's it's possibly not uncommon at
yes,
all.
absolutely. And I made the decision, and this is not an indication of strength or anything, because a lot of people make a different decision, and that is not any reflection. But I made the decision that I didn't want him to have that power over me, and I love the work that I do, and I did not want him to get the satisfaction of taking it away from me. It became clear to me that, I mean, it's obvious, isn't it, that he had fixated on me. He decided that he knew that I wouldn't see him. So he went to efforts to conceal who he was for a power thing over me. He knew this was his goal. Whether or not this came all the way right back from the brothel, the first brothel, where I had told him off for being a naughty boy to one of the other workers, and then he saw an opportunity with me in another brothel to have his little power trip, and then he saw another opportunity when I worked privately, and he knew I wouldn't, or he suspected I wouldn't do anything about it, because I believe this individual's perception is that sex workers will not seek recourse, because a lot of them don't, and particularly those who are less privileged and who are trying to keep it a secret from family, or working from hotels, or, don't have in-calls and all of that sort of stuff. Don't want to out themselves. So he plotted this. This was a plan for him, and he did it. And it was horrifying. It became clear to me over the next few years, as I connected with more people in my community, that this was a pattern for this individual, whether or not it was involving this mask scenario, which it did for a couple of other people. It was, I'm going to say, I've probably spoken to or know through a friend of, around 10 people, which is, that's only the ones that I know about, who have been victims of this individual. Yeah, which is terrifying, because it speaks to me of a person who is deeply insecure or angry at women, and has some vendetta. And when does it end? And where does it end? And with whom?
Yeah.
It's a really frightening thought. So from that point, my screening changed entirely. And I have some pretty tough screening now. And I'm so lucky that most of my clients, all of my clients, have complied with that screening and been really understanding of it. And it's not necessarily that I think that you're going to do something. I don't know if you're him. To this day, I don't know who he is. I don't know where he is. He could be listening to this right now, and I would not be surprised if he was. I would not be surprised if he watches and he waits, and I would not be surprised if he's tried since. And in fact, he has. I have found out several other numbers that he's contacted me on since. I don't know at any point if you're him. And so it's so important to me to know who the fuck you are. I don't care who you are, but I need to know you're not him. It's important.
Yeah, and this is why we go on and on and on about screening, and why when potential clients go, "Oh, I shouldn't have to give you my information. What if you tell my wife?" And it's like, we don't give a fucking shit about your wife. We all have at least one person that we need to make sure you're not.
That's what it is. And it was only, I think, gosh, it must have been about 3 or 4 years ago now. Actually, I think it was sort of mid-COVID-ish, so around there. I finally thought, fuck this guy, I'm going to go to the police about it. So I did. I went through the whole process. It was a big process, let me tell you. I had to tell the story to several people. I had to get all of my information, all that I had, and they knew exactly who he was. They know who he is. They know.
Yeah.
Can they tell me? No. I don't even deserve the safety of knowing that person's name who did that to me. They will not give me that information, because he deserves privacy. But if I ever find out, redacted so that there's no legal problems. But, and I suppose that's why the police don't want to give me the information.
Yeah, actually, they probably shouldn't give you the information. They should give it to me, and I'll act on your behalf.
Yeah. So look, we got to a point in all of this where obviously, the police knew. They reached out to him. I'm hoping that is enough for him to know that I'm fucking serious, and that we are watching and we know who you are. I might not, but I have a team now of police who are very invested in this, who collected a lot of other stories along the way from people that I directed to this case. And I hope he's just stopped. I haven't heard anything in a little while, but I don't know if he's just targeting more marginalised workers or people who feel like, so I don't know. But it's horrifying that this person is out there and we'll never know.
Yeah, and I mean, from the day you first told me that story, to hearing it now, every time it has come up or anything has reminded me of it, I think it is one of the most deeply disturbing stories I've heard in this industry. And the fact that it happened to one of my people is heart-shattering. Like, I just think, I don't have words, and the listeners don't need to hear my rambling about it because they're probably having their own thoughts. But it's just absolutely fucked. And then the absolute cruelty on top of that this person deserves his privacy protected and that you aren't even allowed to know his fucking name is just injustice. I mean, there's no other way to put that in my mind.
Just before we move on, sorry, I just want to add one more thing. Just for those wondering, for like a follow-up, why hasn't that proceeded any further legally? Basically, I had just left it too long. That's it. If we had gotten in earlier, we'd have more evidence. I'd have, but for a multitude of reasons, basically, essentially, it's because I sat on it for so long. And also, these are really hard things to prosecute. As we've seen with really high-profile similar cases, proving that somebody has committed this kind of violence is very, very hard. These things very rarely go to trial, and when they do, people very rarely receive convictions. So for all of the trauma that I would have to go through and other people would have to go through, I understand people say it's not worth it. For me, I actually think I would have been, just because I'm a spiteful little bitch, I would have been happy to run this one through just out of principle, just to do it. And I am still happy. If those police contact me in 10 years and say, you want to do this, I'm doing it. But for now, it is where it is. And hopefully the police contacting him and letting them know that they were looking into these things is enough for him to go, I'm going to get some therapy.
I don't have high hopes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to move on to my story now, which is hopefully slightly lighter. I mean, nothing about any of this topic is light, is it? But I think there are some laughs in this one at least. You've got to have a bit of levity where you can as well, I think, even in the dark. Where you can. Yeah. So this is a person. I
think a code name for this guy would be really ideal, because you have to understand he's given himself a weird little code name. Like, is that...
Yeah, he has given himself a code name. But let's go with Charles, okay?
That's too dignified. He's more of like a...
Is it? I feel so bad because I actually just thought of a friend of mine whose name is Charles. It just popped into my head, but they are not at all similar. But
This guy is more of
I think I saw him on Facebook recently.
I'm going to call this guy like a Norman.
Norman.
Norman the not normal. Yeah,
okay,
anyway.
Norman. Abnorman.
Abnorman. Yeah.
Oh, shit. Okay, all right. Norman. So, oh, shit. Okay. So, as we all know, because I spoke about this in part 1, I had a big gangbang in 2018. I can't believe the amount of times this has come up on my podcast, and my poor parents have to hear me say that word. They don't have to, but they choose to hear me say that word all the time. I love you guys. Sorry. You're the best. So this person I met at that event. So we have met in person, but that's the only time I've met him in person.
Did you interact with him much by memory at that event?
I do remember him because he hung around a lot afterwards.
Okay.
We were trying to
move them on.
Wrap up and so yes, I do remember him, and the nickname that he has given himself relates to a bedroom activity.
Oh.
So I do remember that. So yes, I know who this person is, I guess. But again, have only met him in that one environment where there was like 30 plus people in a room, and I was obviously
busy. Yeah.
Occupied. Yes. So, it's really not a strong connection, I wouldn't say, from my point of view. Now, with my last story, I went through and added up and I said, X number of emails in this many days, etc. With this person, I cannot count. It is hundreds at least. I have received hundreds of text messages and emails from Norman ever since that day. I have 3 Jenna email addresses. I have an old one, and then I have, one that's for bookings and one that's for other things. And I get sent them to all 3 of those. I thought they'd stopped for a while, but then I realized they'd obviously just like triggered the junk filter. And then I opened my 3 junk folders and found all these messages. And I cannot overstate how many of them there are. It is just so many messages. I think some of them are direct to me. Occasionally they seem like I'm part of a group thread. Like he's talking to multiple people, and then sometimes I think just talking to himself. I just have absolutely no idea. I thought I would share some highlights for you.
They're so juicy. Go ahead.
Oh, and videos. I get sent a lot of videos. Like sometimes it's him at dinner with some mates, like talking, and like you can't really tell what's going on. Sometimes they've been him like in a booking with a worker, which is obviously completely inappropriate. It's not showing anything sexual, but it's just like him being like, hey, I'm here with blah, blah. And she's like, oh, hi. And like, whatever. Sometimes they are videos of him like holding a phone up to the TV, like he's watching a movie or something, and recorded a section and sent it through. They are just, I'm just literally scrolling through randomly. This isn't even best of. I'm just scrolling through and finding something because I wouldn't even know how to collate all of this.
Sorry, I know I'm saying wow, like I don't know, but I like just it's bringing up memories of having seen some of this content, you know, like
yeah. And to be clear, like, let me check actually. I don't know if I have ever once responded to him. No, not once. Sorry, not actually. I have, like, later on I do. But, hi, Jenna. Norman here. I read your posts every day. It gets me through my 9-to-5 life of pretending to save it for marriage. Yet I haven't seen you since your 30th. Yet we wear the same charm, with an ankh emoji. Now, I have an ankh, which is an ancient Egyptian hieroglyph tattooed on my back. And he has sent me a picture of him wearing, like, a necklace that has that same symbol. I'm trying to find a way to settle down. I really want to. It's hard because I love every woman, just like you love every man. Incorrect. Someone hasn't listened to the podcast. I love the uptight bitches, the broken and lost, the struggling, the, quote, I'm doing fine Norman, the nerdy girl who heard about me but is too shy of me. I just love them all. Yet in the last 2 years, I've never had a more adventurous experience than your 30th. Yet I was not overexcited about it, just comfortable being in your company. Maybe I need to book you, but I'm kind of seeing niece. I have no idea who that is. I guess it's a famous person.
Yeah,
I don't know.
A bikie, yeah.
Right, yeah, okay, cool. Maybe we'll bleep that out then. And I promised I'd only blow her. I don't even know what that means. So if I do marry her, promise me you'll be mine at my bucks party.
Ew.
I was like, okay, yeah.
I just want to point out that this guy, to paint you a picture, is not remotely attractive. And he's just sort of giving some idea, like he's got these women all around him. And I just want to, rein in your imagination, dear listener. This guy is probably not surrounded. And I mean, obviously he's very strange, but it's not like that's being, clouded by his handsome features or anything.
Correct. Yes. Then there's one where he says, I learnt something about ritual abuse today, and then sends me a few paragraphs about ritual abuse. So that's great. Thank you for that. Yeah. Some photos, some videos, a screenshot from Wikipedia about ammonia salts. Okay. So, all right, this is a good one. I get this message. Also, I've got 6 weeks stuck in this job, after which I'm unemployed. But I think you and I can do this. Escort agency. And there's dot points. Website, business cards. I will actively go out seeking businessmen. B and M are both capitalized, businessmen, like it's a trademarked term. And hand out cards after sparking up conversations if I have to. Women. I know a lot of lovely, beautiful women that I would love to help them build a future. Women will be looked after mentally and emotionally and assisted in every way possible. Door prizes, hotels, Airbnb for events, alcohol. Like, this is just the dot points. I don't even know what they are for. an underground network to other pleasures, in brackets, leave that to me. Okay, babes.
What has he got, like dog fighting or like what does that mean?
I mean, ammonia salts?
Come and find my
Ritual abuse?
My hidden pleasures in the back room, and you just go in and it's ammonia salts. Like, oh, it's overpowering.
Just a little pile. Network with hair salons and nail salons for the ladies.
Oh, great.
Okay.
I haven't been able to find one of those myself, so.
Business contacts for the gentlemen. Leave that to me.
Because ladies care about hair and nails and men care about business.
Care about business.
Right.
Then, which means you'll run the show with me and don't have to service any men. Unless, of course, you want to, but that's totally up to you. I'll service any women if need be.
Oh, wow, it's generous.
But then said, sorry, Jenna, ignore the last 2 messages. Only the first one was meant for you. So this is an idea he's selling to someone else, I think. Accidentally sent it to me. Or whatever. I didn't respond. He got it back. Who knows? Let me find some more. Randomly one day, Jenna, my dream is to have a reverse gangbang. I want to lick pussy until you are all satisfied, twice over. That's my dream. That was followed by a video taken in a church. Like just a pan around the church. So that's nice. Oh, then sent me 5 photos that are like screenshots of a conversation with someone. I no idea what it's about. Something else talking about how he wants to see me, wants to book me, whatever. Never actually inquiring, thank God. Oh, that's right. He did some rapping. I forgot. He sent me links to his music.
Right. I remember it.
Yep. And to his YouTube channel, which
the YouTube is unhinged.
Yep. Then, okay, so now we're in 2021, so vaccine talk comes into it. Surprise, surprise. Random message, be careful, different vaccines for different, quote, test subjects.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
It looks like they are targeting Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders first. I believe the human immune system works best. All right, you go believe that.
I mean, if there's like a litmus test for crazy, that's one of the best things that came with the COVID era was...
Yes.
It once somebody mentions, problems with, you can't breathe oxygen through a mask or a vaccine is going to, you're like, that's nice. I love that you've given me the code to know immediately that you're a little bit mad. And I'm a girl
red flag at least.
I believe in aliens. So that's,
It's true.
Yeah.
Then please do not listen to them. They didn't listen to me before 9/11 or after 9/11. Didn't listen to me with the Asian gangs. Didn't listen to me with the global financial crisis. Then I got poisoned. They didn't listen to me. And now COVID-19. Okay.
So you think he's like a Chinese spy that's being like, he's going to be killed for the, dissenting to the CCP? I better be careful. They're going to kill me now.
Oh, months later, sent me a link to some page that describes ritual abuse.
Oh, so he's into that.
Yeah.
It's not a red flag.
Oh, a link to a trailer for Mr. Robot.
Oh, dear.
Cool. Oh, a phone call. Love that. At 11 p.m. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. So then, Jenna, it's Norman, a.k.a. his own given nickname. I have been a bad boy and I think the world deserves to see you squirt on my face so that you can profit on the video and the whole of Western Sydney can see it without my knowledge. I don't even know. Why would it just be Western Sydney? Like, what? Maybe I'll even drink your cum? ? I'll do it happily because you're a goddess.
Oh, wow.
I heard you have a husband and a boyfriend. I have someone's ex-wife and another dude's ex-wife and a free card to do what I please.
No,
love you, Jenna.
Don't.
I'll drink your cum and worship you. P.S. Both ex-wives married Muslim guys. And I love my pork. So that's
do with that what
great.
You will. Yeah.
Yeah. God, I have to stop, but there's just so much good.
Yeah.
He seems to be writing this poem about, it's like they tried telling everyone I was gay so that they could get laid or deny me love, so I pretended and they can't win. They tried embarrassing me. They poisoned me. They did all the, and every time he sends it, like it's gotten longer. It's like a work in progress.
I don't think they tried to embarrass you, friend. Like, I don't think any effort is required.
No.
Doing a good job of it.
Oh, okay. Then sent me this screenshot that someone's put together. The Cheating Whore Rape Scam 101. This is an old trick that cheating women play to get you to feel bad for them because they made bad decisions. They start something with you, a friendship or a relationship, which takes a lot of time, often weeks or months. She then goes and sees some random guy who she sleeps with, then calls rape or says it was unintended, yet puts herself in that position behind your back. When you question the situation as a male, you are made to feel bad about it. How do you deal with it? Kick the bitch to the curb. Even worse, if it's a fat chick, fat and chick are both capitalized again.
Trademark.
We are trademarkable because you lowered your standards for someone who has no standards. And he sent a message along with that said, I don't know how to advise on this one, Jenna, but since psychology is a part of both of our jobs, what? I'm really not sure what he does. He seems to talk, I don't know. I thought I'd share this with you. No comment from me. Seems like a really messed up situation to be in on both parts. No comment from you, but you sent through 2 comments. Yep, cool. Lana Del Rey music video, a link to a History Channel video, him watching Fargo, a link to him talking about Jesus and Mary Magdalene, in brackets, who was a trusted friend and escort.
What?
Yeah, I know about all the whores of your babes.
On.
Okay, so that was just a recap. And this is literally only my phone, and it's only one of the phone numbers that he has because I've deleted all of his emails, which is wild because I'm not a deleter, but they literally are just spam. Like it's just unhinged. Okay, so then he sent me a link to his Facebook page, and this is like his personal Facebook page under his full legal name. And the one great thing about Norman is that he's never pretended not to be Norman. True. He's always upfront about who he is, which is, a lot of these people have in common that they don't do that. So what he's done is post a photo, again, on his personal Facebook with all his friends and family, which is like a sexy pic from my Twitter. And it says, one of my friends from the Blue Mountains. She's an amazing woman and I love her tattoo. Many of my female friends seem to know her as well, and they all speak very highly of her, as she is an amazing soul, capitalized, very smart, capitalized, business-minded, capitalized, and genuinely cares about society and pretty much all humans she interacts with, which is like quite lovely.
It's all true.
But very unhinged.
Yes.
So I responded, I said, hi. This is the first time I had ever responded to a message from him. I said, hi, Norman. It is completely inappropriate for you to post that on your Facebook page. I am not your friend. You are a client I have seen once, many years ago, along with a bunch of other guys, and you have messaged me incessantly ever since. You need to stop contacting me and remove that post from your Facebook immediately. If you contact me again or make posts about me, I will have no option but to make this a police matter. He responded and said, okay, we'll remove right away. I apologize. And did remove it.
To his
so
credit.
That's
yeah.
To his credit. That's quite impressive. Did not expect that. But then, obviously, the emails ramped up.
Yeah.
And so he sent a bunch, and then at one point, it's when I found them in my junk. That's right. I found them in my junk folder, and I was like, holy shit, there's even more than I thought. So I responded to the latest one, and I said something like, please stop contacting me. I've asked you already. Well, that was the straw that broke the camel's back, apparently, because then he started sending even more unhinged emails. There's a real fixation on my tattoo of the ankh. I think he has some connection to Egypt, whether that's his cultural background, whatnot, I don't know. But he keeps talking about how I'm like a hypocrite because I wear the ankh, but I'm cruel to Middle Eastern people and all this stuff, which is really quite upsetting because that's something that's permanently on my body, and it's something that used to mean something nice to me, and now every time I see it, I just think of this absolute lunatic who has fixated on it, and that's shit. I think that's just shitty. And then I think has been threatening me. Like a lot of his messages are like, I don't want to say it because he uses slurs, but will be like, I'm going to tell all the N words about you and all the like Lebanese people, but he doesn't use that word, about you, and they're all, and all the, everyone, I know a lot of bad people and like all that sort of stuff. But I haven't taken any action on this because it's just spam, which is, I don't know, it's quite interesting. Like, it's far more than anyone else has ever contacted me, and yet I don't feel genuinely fearful, if that even makes sense. I'm
so glad.
Maybe I'm naive. I don't know. It's, yeah.
Yeah,
But I was, yeah, I don't know. It's very wild.
I think it makes sense to some extent. I mean, we all have our boundaries of what makes us feel fear, and different people would be afraid of different things, you know, all over the place. But I think had this escalated to something more in person, had he been trying to book you or something, you might feel it as a more immediate danger. Whereas because for so many years it has just existed as an incessant rambling that effectively has just been background noise, even though that's still fucking stalking, and it's still harassment. And it's still encroaching on your privacy, and it can be very mentally draining to constantly have that hanging over you, as we discussed in the last episode. It's not an immediate danger. It doesn't seem like there's no feeling that it's escalating to him coming to you to immediate danger.
No.
I suppose is the thing.
And there's not been any like hiding of identity, which is always the big fear, I think, for me. Yeah, it's interesting. I think that this person is deeply ill, and genuinely every time I hear about like an attack on the news, like a terror kind of style attack, or somebody, you know, running down the street with a knife or something, every time I wait to see if it's him.
Wow.
Because that's like, I genuinely think, I don't know, yeah, obviously I don't know anything, but I don't feel personally afraid, but I think that our country should be afraid.
Yeah. We've talked on other episodes before, and something about our other outside of sex work interests. And one of my interests is I really love reading coronial inquests, and as do you. And we have that shared passion.
It's so nice.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It seems, I don't want to be disrespectful of people. It's not a trauma porn thing. I'm just really fascinated with process and with, you know, how things get to this stage, and the ins and outs of these really crazy things that happen in Australia, and the fact that you can access all of that information quite readily is really, I like to delve into it. Anyway, the point...
And I like the weird tense that they talk in. It puts me to sleep.
Oh, you're so cute.
Yeah, they do that weird police thing where they say, he then would do this.
Yes.
And you're like, this is in the past. What's happening? Yeah. I don't know what it is. I find it very calming.
Yeah. It's very cute. But with so many of these, I've read a lot of inquests of these sorts of people who have really severe mental illness that is marked with conspiracies and is untreated and you know, threats that don't seem very serious at the time, but when you look back over all of the information in an inquest, and when it's all laid out like that, you sort of go, wow, there was a lot of red flags. And you can see the similarities in somebody like this with those inquests of people who have committed really horrible atrocities. And, you know, the police are reasonably powerless, and the justice system has no fucking teeth. And
he has many times said that he is a police officer as well. So I have sort of thought, I don't know if he is. He's talked about a couple of different jobs, but that's been one of them. And I have thought to myself, if I went to the police just to say, hey, like, just want to give you a heads up about this person, they search and it's someone that works for them.
Imagine.
I don't know if that's good for me to do.
Yeah.
Which is it's a tough call. It's a self-preservation thing, which could be over the safety of others, but it's complicated.
Definitely.
Okay, so they're not all of our stories, but they're the ones that are kind of the most that we thought reflected, that definitely stick in our minds, and that we thought reflected a good kind of range of experiences, because it can manifest in a lot of different ways. So I'm sorry, I read out too many of his things, and we've gone on for too long, but let's talk about red flags. Holly, is there anything that you might do differently looking back?
Look, red flags, I think, in hindsight, everything, you know, hindsight is 20/20. We could I can see a lot in hindsight. But I think for me in the David scenario, there was a progression of increased demanding and control. And like I said, now I can see that a mile away, and I am much faster to put a stop to it. But at the time, I probably was not doing financially as well. I'm pretty sure at that time I was living week to week, and I needed every dollar I could get. And so I wouldn't put up with outright abuse, but I could turn a blind eye to somebody who was becoming more and more annoying, and I did. There were a few clients at that time who really were difficult, who I no longer see.
Yeah.
So in terms of the other individual red flags, all of them. There is nothing I could do differently with that except for screen. And I did not know about being able to ask people for their ID. It doesn't necessarily even need to be a government issued ID. It needs to be some sort of real world information that you can verify. I definitely don't want to victim blame. I don't want people to feel like if you don't screen, these things can happen to you, because things can happen to anybody, and they don't happen just because you didn't screen. But it is a really handy thing to have, to be able to know who the fuck you're about to meet. And I think it does deter that sort of behavior. So if you have that privilege and you can, I think it's better to regret having to wait another year for a house deposit or whatever it is than it is to regret having seen somebody and taken that risk and regretting what has happened. So that's all I would do differently there, but I didn't know it was an option. And hopefully our podcast helps people who are entering the industry know that they have some rights, or that there are plenty of wonderful clients out there who are happy to let you know who the fuck they are. So I keep swearing in that, but it's just so important to me, and I'm very passionate about it, and I appreciate it so much.
Yeah, and I know you and I as well have spoken about that, you know, we do it for our own self-preservation, obviously, because we've had these experiences. But also I think that if you are in a position to do it, I do think, maybe I'll get cancelled for this, but I do think that there's an element of responsibility of setting the tone.
I agree.
You know, so that those who are less in that position, so that it becomes standard, it becomes expected, and then there's kind of less opportunity for people to think that they can get away without it. I would just like to say I would not do anything differently. I did absolutely nothing wrong. So
totally,
that's my response to that.
Yeah.
I think that your story about David is a really important one, because I think so often these situations, they are exactly that. They are tiny little incremental boundary pushes and things over time. And this is what, you know, we talk about a lot. Like now we're quite experienced and we can see them a little bit earlier, but it's still, that makes it so much harder than both of my situations were unhinged from day one. You know, I was like, wow, this person is strange. Whereas with him, I mean, yeah, you did say it was a little bit odd, but, you know, not frightening.
Lots of people are odd.
To a point where they suddenly are very frightening.
Absolutely.
And that's really hard to manage. Yeah. And it's really hard to report and to talk about, because nothing sounds huge on its own.
Definitely. Nothing sounds like I was in danger. And I still don't think I was in danger, but I was in distress and I had made it clear.
Absolutely.
In terms of what I would do differently with David, I feel like there are people who could listen to this, and there are workers out there who would say, well, you were encouraging him by not having strong boundaries. What you need to do is make sure that you don't, and not in a victim blamey way. I'm sure people out there wouldn't be meaning to be blaming me, but who would say, and who do say, you need to have boundaries when it comes to, you know, tell them not to message you, tell them not to do this, to leave at this. And I understand that. And I run my business in that way plenty of the time, and lots of people do. But would I change how I treated him initially? No, because I have so many clients that I do look after, and they look after me, and I sincerely value them. They financially look after me, emotionally. They be flexible with me when I need to change things. They come and see me even when things aren't as, like, it's a really reciprocal and healthy relationship with so many of my clients. So it's
worth it.
Absolutely. And it's not about not having boundaries or letting people walk all over me. That's not what it all is happening in these dynamics. But these are people who I value in my life as any customer of any business or of any interpersonal relationship. And it's really nice to foster rewarding relationships, whatever the dynamic. And you can run your business how you want, and I'll run mine how I want. But yeah, this was just one that went wrong. Somebody who, by all accounts, seemed really lovely, and increasingly, I suppose, fabricated a fantasy that there was more there than there was, and didn't mention it to me until he'd lost his mind. You know, it's okay, as we've talked before, it's okay to have crushes, it's okay to bring it up and to go, oh, I need a break or whatever, but this person had spiraled into something else, and wouldn't change that, that's for sure. I would still be my own vulnerable, friendly self and hope for the best.
In terms of, so I think it's interesting, you know, we've told 4 stories here that I think are quite disturbing.
Yes.
And in 2 of those 4 cases, we've been able to seek some sort of recourse, which has been a piece of paper that says, hey, don't go near this person for 2 years. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's a crazy system because the protection orders themselves are ridiculous. It's great to go and get one. I've gotten several in my life now for various reasons. I had one on an ex, I had one on this person, and I had one on the girl up the road that punched me in the face a few years ago.
Yeah.
So,
and they are all so valid.
It's so valid.
Like, I just want to say this to the Jenna of 20 years ago that's listening, who goes, if you have multiple stalkers, like, maybe you're the problem. It's like Holly is a problem, but not in that way.
Yeah.
Like, these 3 are all very, very valid.
Yeah. So, but the order itself comes down to, essentially, the rules on these orders are: do not come within 10 meters of this person, do not assault them, and do not contact them. I feel like we shouldn't have to get a piece of paper signed by a court to make that a thing. If you tell somebody, it should be harassment shouldn't have to be a thing that they make a special rule for you with one-on-one person. If I go to the police and I say, here's all my evidence, I've been harassed by this person, that should be a charge. How is it that it's only a charge if then you go through a whole process to get an order and then they do the wrong thing by it? Don't get me wrong. I know there's a lot of he said, she said, and I know it's a system where you're innocent till proven guilty. But if you've got evidence there that you are being harassed, these pieces of paper do nothing. We've seen it time and time again.
And threatened with violence.
Yes, exactly. In domestic violence
that's
situations, it doesn't do anything. And it's just a ridiculous system that I'm so disappointed in it.
And not to say that we know a better system.
No, I don't have a solution.
But I do what, like, you know, often when you tell people stories, anything like this, they will say to you, oh, you should get a restraining order. And so I think it's important for people to know that, you know, they hold some weight, and it depends on the person. I think for some people that could be a huge message, but for others it isn't at all, especially people who have maybe lost touch with reality a little bit. Words on a page isn't going to fix that. So we wanted to talk a little bit about, I guess, parasocial relationships.
Yeah.
So a parasocial relationship, I looked it up to get a definition, is a one-sided relationship that a media user engages in with a media persona. So I think an example of that from many of our childhoods, right, would be, you know, I thought maybe I would marry Richard Dean Anderson. I didn't really think that, but, you know, I liked the idea that maybe we'd hook up sometime.
I don't know who that is.
Oh, it's Jack from Stargate, SG-1. Oh. It's also MacGyver.
Oh, okay. That's very cute.
My crush. Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Wow.
I was wondering why you were doing a strange face. I was like, am I on a weird... Okay.
No. Yeah, wow.
So, you know, one of my best mates, we used to call her Mrs. Hartnett because she was obsessed with Josh Hartnett.
Sure.
Right? So that's a parasocial relationship.
Yeah.
Because Josh Hartnett and Richard Dean Anderson have absolutely no idea who we are, but we bought every magazine that had a feature with them in it, and we knew their star signs and how many siblings they had, you know? And we thought maybe, just maybe, there was a possibility that we'd meet and then they'd find us super attractive. These days, parasocial relationships, you will hear that talked about a lot more because of social media, because we have a lot more access to media personas, and also the definition of a media persona is now so much broader because it's not just actors in Hollywood. It's anyone can become one. And even on a smaller scale, and actually some of what I've read about this suggests that it can be more of a problem the smaller your following is.
Yes.
Because there's a sense amongst that following that it's this close-knit community. And Holly pointed this out to me the other day. She sent me an article that mentioned that podcasting in particular is a medium that is quite prone to this sort of thing because you've literally got a voice or two in your ears and you feel like you're hanging out with mates and having a chat. And we've all had that experience, I think, there's a couple of my favorite podcasters who I feel like we would get on very bloody well. But I'm keeping that to myself, obviously. But yeah, this sense of community, and that's something that a lot of smaller creators really rely on for their income, is that sense of community. And so they will try and foster that and, refer to people as Swifties is an example. Taylor Swift fans are Swifties. But on a Taylor Swift is obviously huge. But yeah, apparently that can actually make people in these parasocial relationships feel so much closer to the person. So I hope that's clear what that is. It's a one-sided relationship. That's what's important. So yeah, we have this situation where there's a lot of that going on. And for sex workers, I think I've mentioned this before on the podcast, but I think one of the problems we face is that we look just like quote unquote influencers on the internet. People come across our profiles and they think, oh, a young woman who's dressed a bit sexy, which is exactly what influencers look like.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like, I can't tell the difference looking at a photo. I've many times clicked on someone's bio and tried to look for hints about whether they're a peer or not, because I like to follow peers. And even that is very unhelpful because we face so much censorship that people can't actually say what they're doing. And this is part of the problem too. We have to pretend we're not sex workers in order to survive on social media. So people think that we're not because they're listening to the fake words that we're telling them because we've got no other choice. And then I think it's really compounded by the fact that I think the Venn diagram of people who are on OnlyFans and people who are influencers is getting closer and closer to a circle.
Yes.
As now it's quite normalized in a lot of ways for an influencer to also have an OnlyFans, whether or not they're sharing explicit content or the degree of what's on there is, up for debate. So we have this situation where we are literally just trying to get bookings and just trying to make income. The vast majority of people in the industry. There's an added layer for people like me and Holly who are also trying to advocate and also trying to say, hey, by the way, maybe we could have rights. So that's like an additional purpose to, particularly for my social media. That's a big part of what I do. I try to lure people in with boobs and then be like, okay, but
here's some politics.
But here's a hot take. Yeah. It's my main strategy in life, really.
You got me.
People want to date me, and then I'm like, well, are you ready for some serious discussion? And they're like, oh, will you lift your top up? I'm like, yeah, occasionally. Like, I'll give you glimpses. It's fine. Literally describes us.
It's worth it. Yeah, that's us.
Okay. So anyway, but the vast majority of workers, their purpose for being on social media is to have an income because it is essential. We have to be. There's so many reasons we can go into why this is. Foster Sesta is a big part of it. Criminalization of in-person work is part of it. Discrimination of payment processes so that we can't actually access. We can't pay for advertising in a lot of ways. So as a result, we're on social media and people develop parasocial relationships with us. And it's become, well, in my case, I think it's becoming more and more of a problem. And I can only assume that it's becoming more and more of a problem broadly. And so I mean, I very recently, it was interesting knowing this recording was coming up over the last few days because I've been dealing with somebody contacting me on social media who I think has really developed a parasocial relationship with me and has sent me, quite a lot of messages and been pretty objectively creepy.
Oh, yeah.
Not like I don't need to go into the story. It's nothing dramatic, but I've gone, oh, this person is way too invested in me.
Yes.
For me to be comfortable engaging with them. And one of the, because I did say this is not appropriate. This is a business account, and I think something a lot of people don't realize, this is a big problem with the social media stuff, the crossover, is that when you're engaging with a sex worker on social media, you're not engaging with that person. You're engaging with that person's business. And I mean, even to an extreme example of that, there's plenty of people who don't run their own social media. So you're literally not even talking to that person, right? But these are business profiles. It is like sending a DM to Coles or to Coca-Cola or to Kellogg's and expecting to develop a friendship out of that, a friendship or a relationship or whatever. And I think that, everything comes back to sex work is work.
I just wanted to jump in and say that when it's a client who has had a booking with us before, who contacts us or comments on social media, it's a very different scenario. And I'm not saying it's always welcome or that we want to engage it or whatever. I just don't want anyone who's listening who we've seen or anything like that, or who has seen workers, to think that they're being a pest by engaging. But what we mean is somebody that you've never met before, that you're just familiar with as an internet personality.
Totally.
That's where it's, you're really at that stage. I see you comment, you're lovely. You might be someone I've never met, that you're very nice. And, maybe we have had some conversation if you sent me some gifts or some money or whatever. And then that's cool. It becomes more of a two-sided thing. But before that, you're just a lovely person leaving a comment. And that's all I know about you. And that's all I really want to know at that stage. So sorry, didn't mean to cut.
No. That's a really important qualifier. And I've said it before, but in my mind, a client that we've met that's actually not a parasocial relationship.
Yes.
It's a client-provider relationship. It stops being one-sided. There's actually transaction there. We know who you are as a person. Obviously, that's a whole other topic about taking that beyond what it is. But when we're talking about parasocial relationships, I am specifically referring to people that I have absolutely no idea who they are. Like, we've never met them. We've never, and usually they've never paid us anything, even like not even sent a tip or anything. So I have this big thing with hitting on people at work. I think it is incredibly inappropriate. And I think the reason I have such a problem with it is because I've worked a number of jobs that are very, quite amongst the public and casual. So the boundary seems maybe a bit less clear. I was a trivia host for over 10 years, and the amount of times, it probably wasn't that often, but it wasn't unusual for someone to come and strike up a conversation, often a man, or for someone to come and tell me I'm, good looking or whatever, or even for someone to send me a message if they had if they were a friend of a friend or something and had a way to contact me. So send me a message while I'm hosting. And often these people would, come up and say something or send me a message or whatever, and then go and sit. And then I had to finish my shift, and this is the thing with hitting on someone in the workplace, is that it's the biggest power, not the biggest, but it's a huge power imbalance, because I still had to stand up there. I can't run away. I can't say, hey, that's really creepy, I'm leaving. I can't even really be rude, because a customer service job involves you smiling, and especially as a woman, you are expected to smile at work and everywhere. So it puts me in this position where I can't reject you. And for the kind of people that think it's appropriate to hit on someone at work and think there's no issue with that, you not rejecting them is a big problem. And the reason I'm bringing all of this up is because this is what's happening when we get hit on social media. When I get a message that says, hey, Jenna, love all your content, I love blah, blah, blah. I just wanted to know, would you, do you ever meet up for people, not for business? I just think we'd be really good friends. I feel like we'd get on really well. Those messages are not uncommon, and usually I just ignore them. But sometimes those people get quite obsessive and feel slighted, which is, we know one of the, there's however many different types of stalkers they say they are, and one of them is the perceived rejection stalker. They feel that we've developed this relationship and I'm rejecting them, and so I've led them on. And this is where I've taken so long to say this. I'm sorry.
This is so good.
It is late at night. Great. But this is where the parasocial relationship is important, because I don't know who they fucking are. They think that we have this phenomenal connection. They think that we would just be best buds. And this is what I was saying, like when I'm listening to my favorite podcasters, I reckon they would love me. But I don't send them a message suggesting we meet up for a coffee, because that would be fucking weird. So anyway, I'm not, I don't think any of our listeners are the type to do that. So we're not sharing this to say, hey, don't do that, because I think not to. We're just sharing some of the experiences of what it's like being a sex worker.
On the internet.
And even more broadly, I think being a woman on the internet and being a person on the internet. This is kind of the space we're in now, and our legislations and our social attitudes haven't really caught up.
Definitely not.
Does that cover all of that, do you think?
I think that was absolutely fantastic. Yeah.
And then I wanted to ask one last question, because we shared 4 kind of big stories, and they were all men who were the perpetrators, the alleged perpetrators. So is this a male issue?
Oh, no. I don't think so. I think anyone can be prone to that sort of thing. I think we have a situation at the moment in Australia or worldwide with violence against women, and that tends to be perpetrated by men, or statistically is more common. I have found that most of my female clients have been well behaved, but there almost does seem to be a little bit more when it comes to women, of them thinking that they are not capable of doing bad things. I don't know how to explain that. I'm not articulating it well. Maybe maybe because we're not often painted as the perpetrators, they sort of feel like they're not pushing boundaries when they are. They've not been told that certain boundaries exist for them as well, or they think that because that we're both women, there's a kinship there, so what they're doing is not invasive in any way. I have heard of stories from male workers of women who have done some really upsetting things, and particularly we mentioned in, I think, the stripping episode, that from male strippers, that they get assaulted all the time because women think that it's not assault for them to grope a man.
If it's a woman doing it.
Yeah, it's definitely not just men. I think we definitely have problems with men and
male perpetrated violence. Absolutely.
That's the word I'm looking for. Thank you. The term I'm looking for.
It absolutely isn't. I think that the nature of our jobs perhaps means that we may be more exposed to it from men, at times, because there is a higher percentage of men engaging with us as clients and fans, etc. But, that last person I was speaking about is a woman. I've definitely had a number of parasocial relationship situations that have been women, and I am guilty of, I've done nothing wrong, but of initially responding to them because I love chicks and I see them as less of a threat. And I do think that broadly they are in a lot of ways. But, I've been guilty of being like, oh, what's she got to say? And then we have a little chat, and then I slowly realize, oh, this is not okay. So, yeah, that's a little bit on me. But it's quite funny. I posted something recently telling someone off for this parasocial situation. So I posted on my stories on Instagram, and a bunch of people responded directly to the story. And there were so many responses that were like, oh, fucking men, or what's wrong with men? There was a bunch of men saying, oh my God, I'm so sorry on behalf of all men, that sort of thing. I don't know if I should say it was joy, because this person had made me quite uncomfortable and I wasn't happy about the situation. But I took some, I don't know, there was some joy or something in responding to every single one of those saying, this is a woman. This is a woman. This is a woman. Because I think, we all know I'm a raging feminist, but I think that it's important that we all are aware that all human beings are capable of dangerous behavior, and that doesn't mean that the spotlight shouldn't currently be on male perpetrated violence, because it is a disgustingly huge issue. But it freaks me out that people might sort of go into situations just being like, oh, I can let all my guards down because it's a woman. I guess that's my point. And I think it happens, like, I think it's a broader cultural thing, not just a sex industry thing. Because I have a friend who was telling me this funny story once about how she got like a pizza delivery and she opened the door with no clothes on. And she thought that was so hilarious. And she was like, I just thought I'd give the guy like a bit of a thrill. And I was like, okay, that's sexual assault. Like you can't do that. A lot of delivery people are under 18, for one. It may not have been a man or a man who's attracted to women. And that person is working again. Yeah. The person's just trying to do their job. They did not ask for that. And I think that's a lot of where the stuff that happens with male strippers comes from, because it's this societal idea that all men just want to see boobs and just want to have sex all the time, regardless of anything else. And so they should just be grateful that a woman is offering that up. And I think that's pretty gross and just a bit dumb.
Wow. That is a heavy episode, but hopefully lots to think about there. Fully a little bit of fun as well and playfulness. And this is the reality of life. And yeah, go back to the disclaimer at the start. We are not saying that this is a thing that happens to all sex workers, or that happened because we're sex workers, or that happened because of sex work or anything like that. Just shit happens sometimes, and I think it's important that we share the reality of all aspects of life. And we are both incredibly honest and forthcoming people, and honesty is important to us. And this is an experience that we've had. And we've both sat on these experiences for a while for concerns that airing this stuff might cause us drama. But it's important for us to share.
And I refuse to apologize for that honesty.
Yep.
I think it's a beautiful quality. I love it about you. I love it about me. And I'm not interested in changing it.
Neither.
Yay. There's a happy ending, maybe.
Yeah. As always, we'd like to extend a massive thank you to our generous patrons. We probably couldn't keep the show going without you, or it would certainly be a little bit less motivating. Thank you to our even more generous somebodies, the Riley McDonald, the Desiree Frambois, the Ashley Stafford, the Rhiannon Rhodes, Lachlan, Timmy, Steve, Adele, Scott C, Leslie, Sub London, NK, Andrew, Wheezy, Mr. E, Simon, Nomad, Luke, Frankie, Cuddle Koala, Witty Comment, Alex and David. And an extremely generous thank you to our extremely generous somebodies, the Madison Jones, the Sienna Saint, Aaron, Andrew, Adam Smith, Pete, Tim and Tom.
Thank you so much for listening if you made it this far. We will see you soon with hopefully maybe a lighter topic.
And just a reminder, if you are looking for a different kind of happy ending, you know where to find that information. Love you guys. Bye. Don't harass a sex worker. Bye.
Try not to.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Please look out for us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Patreon. Our name everywhere is Somebody You Pod, as in podcast. Our Patreon starts at just $3 a month, and you can get all of our episodes ad-free and a day early, plus bonus episodes, behind-the-scenes action, bloopers, and more. Thank you for taking the time to listen to the voices of sex workers. And remember, somebody you love might just be a sex worker.